Hi, my name is Adam Shoemaker, and I'm Rector here at St. Stephen's Episcopal Church in downtown Charleston, back for another edition of Rector's Corner, and very happy to have with me our digital ministry coordinator, Andrea McKellar, who has been absolutely instrumental in helping us to carry forward our worship life as a church over the course of the pandemic. And as we transition back into in-person worship, I thought that Andrea and I could reflect a little bit on the year that is past. I'll also note that Andrea formally came on board with the title Digital Ministry Coordinator on August the 1st, and she will conclude that service on August the 1st of this year, when we'll have an opportunity to publicly thank her during worship that day. So Andrea, it's been a real pleasure having you serve us in this way. And I honestly don't know what we would have done without your gifts and your willingness to step forward. And it really, as I reflect back on it, it's amazing how seamless the transition was. We had to suspend in-person worship sort of the middle of March, right in the middle of Lent of 2020. And we had this comical attempt to try to use our camera system to record a service that first Sunday, and it was a big flop. And then you stepped in and began volunteering, and it's really amazing. Holy Week was, right around the corner, what we were able to do. I wonder if you could just reflect upon you coming on board and how your process evolved over time.
Yeah, well, I remember I'm not sure if I texted or called or sent an email, but it said something like, I do know how to edit video if you need it. and that Saturday afternoon, after the first Sunday, when the flub had happened and you were like, what are we going to do? And I was like, okay, send me some stuff. We'll figure it out. And when we talked about it at the time, I said I'd do it till Easter. And then we talked about it and I said, okay, I can do it till summer. And then we just kept pushing it back. And I will say it was a ministry for me. I really did feel that. And it was a way to stay very connected with the congregation. I feel closer to the congregation, even though we didn't talk one-on-one. I know more people's names now, and from seeing their faces reading, I feel really connected to those people that were part of the service each week. So I can't wait to see people in person. And I think I'm worried I'm going to be awkward of like, it's so great to see you. And they're going to go, who are you? Yeah. Right. That maybe I feel more connected because I was seeing them over and over again as I would edit the things together each week. I'd see a service all the way through probably 3 or 4 times by the time it was sent out. So I feel more connected to our liturgy. I know it really well. At the beginning, I had some questions for you all along the way, but usually we rolled with it after that. But yeah, from those early days, it seems like a long time ago when we had Holy Week. And it was an interesting time that my kids were home from school. They ended up staying home the whole year, which is what gave me some of the extra time to be able to do the editing. It was usually 5 to 8 hours a week of editing. Mm-hmm. So depending on how intricate the service was that week. But it's been fun. Now we've been using those skills. My son learned how to use a yo-yo during the pandemic. So I made a video of all his skills to send to the cousins so he could show off. And it was fun to slow down as he did an around the world. And, but so I've got some skills that I don't know how they'll be used in the future, but I'm glad I could use them for this.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me think about how other churches, excluding obviously sort of the corporate sized churches, managed during the pandemic, because how could a church move forward without somebody in their midst who could manage the technology piece in one way or another? I would also say that the way we chose to do it with pre-recorded worship, allowing people, thanks to your editing, to film themselves in home, it provided an intimacy to our worship that I think really captured the unique spirit that St. Stephen's is known for, and I think allowed people to see people in a different way. And it was also more inclusive. I mean, we had more young people participating in worship than ever before as readers. In our first in-person worship service back, somebody came to the door and said, "I'm so happy to be back, but one thing I will really miss about the pre-recorded worship is the children's Lord's Prayer," which we shot a few times because kids kept growing and changing. And
yeah, there were actually 6 versions in all. I had someone 2 weeks after this Easter say, "We really need a new Lord's Prayer. These kids are," and I was like, "This is actually the new one. You've only seen it twice." That they didn't realize we kept changing it. But yeah, I did love that part of the service.
And you know, there were a lot of special things that you edited for us, like the King's Cake video that I think people really loved. There were a lot of fun things outside of Sunday morning that you were able to do. I wonder what the lessons you think we've learned as a church over the course of online worship during this pandemic. What do you think the lessons learned are?
Yeah, more on a global scale, I think, than maybe St. Stephen's specifically, but I feel like we've learned that we can do things differently. We can pivot and we can figure it out, and we can be there for the people that can't be there on Sunday morning. I think that's one thing that was really great, that we saw that while most of our people watched the service Sunday morning, there were people that watched it Sunday afternoon or later in the week. And there's a lot of people hungry for church that, unfortunately, due to life and work schedules and children's schedules and things, that being there every Sunday morning isn't the same as it was maybe when we were kids or our parents were kids, that it was just expected that you could be there every Sunday. And I think being there for everyone and continuing that is important to show that the church is here for you when you can come, and it's here for you when you can't come. I think I hope we will continue finding creative things to do in the service. I loved things, this was things we did before anyway, like the Passion reading or the Pentecost in different languages. That's stuff that we did in person, but using many voices. The King's Cake was a lot of fun. I will say that was probably the highlight of my year, was making that one. And so, we can still do things like that. We can still have, like, if you all were able to join for bingo on Shrove Tuesday, that was so much fun. My kids got so into that and really enjoyed it, that I think there's things that we learned that we'll be able to take into whatever this new version of church is, that it's going to be, people are calling it hybrid church, that we can be online and in person. But I think it's more flexible church. And I hope we won't go back too soon to what was before, but we'll remember those things we learned and continue having fun. I think that's what St. Stephen's is known for. As I loved that, if you all saw the end of the last service, I did the end of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And I asked friends, I said, "Do you think this is too much?" And they're like, "Well, what's kind of the culture?" And I was like, "St. Stephen's can have fun." And they're like, "Okay, keep it in." So yeah. I like that about St. Stephen's, is that we are serious about our worship and serious about our commitment to Jesus, but we don't mind having a little fun along the way.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and it really extended the reach of our community, the online worship. I mean, there are people in Texas and Alaska and Chicago and Maryland and Brooklyn that I was aware tuned in pretty regularly to our worship, and were grateful to have it, and participated sometimes in our Sunday morning Zoom fellowship hour. It really allowed us to continue to touch people, even people who'd been part of our community who moved away. And I think that is a lesson and an insight for how to try to think about carrying forward hybrid church as we as we move into whatever the church is continuing to become out of this experience. And it's an exciting thing to think about how we might do that moving forward. Obviously, we can't do in-person church and pre-recorded worship at the same time. There are some people who have wondered about that, but I don't think that's a sustainable model for us. So as we've advertised, and it's taking us just a little bit longer than we'd hoped, but as we've advertised, we are working on wiring our church for internet access, which will enable us fairly soon to live stream our Sunday morning service, which won't be the same experience that we've provided you thanks to Andrea's help over the pandemic, but it will allow people to tune in and see what's happening from afar and to participate in that. But there's also going to be a lot of Zoom opportunities still moving forward. We're doing renovations on our Christian education classrooms right now, and so by necessity, we're needing to think about carrying forward formation offerings on Zoom. And Laura's going to continue to do the family faith formation, and we have a new Bible study coming in August. We've had a Bible study we're carrying forward, looking at the lectionary on Tuesdays. Our fellowship hours morphing into sort of an adult formation time. So there's a lot that we're going to try to carry forward thanks to this experience. I understand. Go ahead, Andrea.
On that, I was out of town for really the first time since the pandemic started this last Sunday. And what was great is, even though I went to church in person where I was, they had a service and a friend of mine works at that church. But then I came home and the next day was able to watch the sermon. And so I love that even as we transition in, it still felt great to not just see the pictures of everyone that were in church that I missed since I wasn't in Charleston, but to see that building and sit down and feel the energy in the room. I'm sure, like, what was it like to preach again in front of people?
It was wonderful, but certainly I think it will be its own transition. There was a way in which coming back sort of felt like, oh, wow, I can sort of begin to slide back into the rhythm that felt more normal to me. But it was also different than what we've done for 15, 16 months, but so joyful. I mean, it was a long weekend, so a lot of people were traveling, but those who came we're just so happy to be there, and it was really wonderful. Wayne played Amazing Grace for us to process into, and that was, I think, just perfect for our opening hymn. But it definitely will be a transition, and I'm aware that there's still some people who might want to wait a little bit longer before coming back into the building. But of course, we are offering our outdoor service over the summer in the tent, and that was a lovely thing to do as well. One thing that's a transition, I will say, that's a happy transition for us clergy, that those listening may not know, is because Andrea's editing, obviously needed some time. We had to get all of our material to Andrea by about Thursday. So normally in-person times, when I'm preparing a sermon, I can have right up until Saturday if I need it, but all the way through the pandemic, it was basically, we were going on sort of like a Wednesday to Wednesday week, which I will say, Andrea, I never quite ever got used to. I always in my mind felt like I had more time, and then it would be Monday and I'd be like, oh gosh, right, I have to have my sermon recorded by Wednesday. The other thing I'll say is that if you're a perfectionist in any way, there was a great temptation with the pre-recorded worship, because, when we're in person, you do it, right? It comes out of your mouth, and people are forgiving, and people know that that's life, and we all move on. With the pre-recorded worship, you know, you had the opportunity to try to get it, you know, perfect. And I got better about this moving forward. But early on, there were Sundays when I probably recorded my sermon like 9 times or something, because I was frustrated that, that didn't come out quite the way I wanted or something. But your editing over time, I really appreciated, was so good that, you know, if I preached most of the sermon and then something at the end bothered me, you could edit it out, or I could just re-record that one little piece and give it to you as a separate file, and you could splice it together, which was, you know, almost didn't notice. It was really amazing.
Yeah, and that was a decision I made at the beginning, that there was a temptation to edit out like every and like stutter and things. And I realized worship isn't meant to be perfect, you know, and so I kept in most of the things that would have naturally happened in person because I didn't want it to feel perfect. And that was a decision we made, that, you know, some things, if it was a big flub or someone asked me to change it, of course I'd take it out. But I liked keeping in a little bit of that reality. So that, so it wasn't a movie. I wanted to make sure it wasn't just us watching the service, but was something we were all a part of. And that was a decision we made with like the graphics that were put up with the prayers. And we wanted to make sure that it wasn't consumer church, that you weren't just sitting and watching and, you know, a Netflix show, that it gave you the opportunity to be a part of it. And so, which happens naturally when we're back in the building. So I'm excited for us all to be back there together.
Well, and so there are a lot of humorous things that happen. I mean, some people were always impressed by how seamless and smooth our worship seemed when they saw the finished product. But there are a lot of bloopers, a lot of outtakes, a lot of moments along the way that that got edited out. But Andrea, are you working on some kind of retrospective video that will?
Yeah, I'm hoping to do kind of a 1.5 year in review of what we did, the good and the bad, and find some of those bloopers for people. Some of the things I love, people would talk to me sometimes at the beginning or the end of their video. They'd be like, "Hey, Andrea, here's my video. Hope you're having a good week," or make me look good, or different things, or tell me this is the 10th take because my phone kept ringing, along the way. And then I can't remember, I don't think it was you. Someone was with Laura for the last Eucharist that we filmed, maybe Andrew Mel, but anyway, and at the end they high-fived. They were like, "Oh, we did it." And I kept that clip too. But so it was fun, the things that were on that we didn't show as well. I'm excited to share that with everybody.
Yeah. And aside from Andrea, there were a lot of people behind the scenes. There were a lot, not just people you saw on the camera, but a lot of people who were filming, like Joey Fronenberger did a lot of the filming of the musical pieces that Wayne recorded. And so just really grateful for Andrea and for all the community who participated in these services and helped to make them what they are. But it will be such a joy to continue to see many of you in person over the coming weeks and months. And we will look forward, Andrea, to thanking you on August 1st publicly for your fine work with us at St. Stephen's, and grateful that we still get to have you worship alongside us and your wonderful children moving forward. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me, and we will all be on the lookout for that retrospective video. So
good. Well, thank you. It was a pleasure.
I will be back next month with another edition of Rector's Corner. In the meantime, be safe and well, friends, and hope you continue to have a wonderful summer. Take care. Bye-bye.